sports editor, Dave Callaghan, a cricket warrior. I've dubbed him that because, as you may know, he fought against cancer, and what's more is that he continues to play cricket, talk about it, and absolutely loves the game. He was also the captain of the over 50 Cricket World Cup, which happened recently in Cape Town, but unfortunately could not be finished due to obvious reasons. We chat about the competition, about his career, and also going forward, what can happen to improve cricket in South Africa. I trust you enjoy the chat, and I trust that you're all well. Have a good one. Cheers. Thanks, Dave. Thanks so much for joining us on the Sports Editor. Dave, let's start with your recent activities. The Over 50 World Cup was looking to be a great tournament. How eager were the gents to get stuck in and play?
Yeah, we were. There was a long build-up towards it. Obviously, there were the trials early, the late last year, and obviously lots was spoken about. We got a lot of feedback from the gentleman that went to Australia. So there was quite a lot of fun building up to it, and the most important thing is to find out who was going to be fit enough. And I think, as I said to you, after the fact that they went to Australia, the 18 months prior to that, gave them a sort of indication of what we were expecting.
Yes.
We knew that we needed to get a team of guys that was going to be fairly fit, mobile.
No, that's excellent.
And that was really what it was all about. We were able to get a bunch of guys, very different to picking a provincial side, because you normally pick from form and all those type of things. Yes. So we had to rely on one thing, and as Steve Bofferman, who was convener of selectors, and Roy Misa, the manager, said to me, we need guys that are going to be reasonably fit, who can run between the wickets, who've got some skill, and that's why you would have seen there were a couple of guys there that played that have never necessarily played provincial cricket or played for South Africa. Yeah, they were there because they were fit. They've continued playing the game, which was also important. There wasn't guys. We obviously had one or two celebrity type guys that picked up a bat 6 months ago, and in the view of them playing in this tournament. So the likes of Louis Kuhn, Bradley Player, but then they all played in the Cape Town local tournament, or that local evergreen tournament. So it was important for them to get some practice. Guys like Dave Duncan and Warren Rippon play cricket in the country districts in Port Elizabeth. So so they regularly play for their clubs, and that's why they got chosen. They not only good players, or were good players, they're still good players. And they move around the field pretty. Lefty from Border, he's still playing first-class cricket. Not first-class. He's not first league cricket.
Okay. Yes.
So and then on Rodney, he got himself fit. Rodney Malamba. And so it was really nice catching up with all those guys.
No, that was great. And then you guys had a narrow win against England, but it showed a lot of determination to come through with a win there.
Yeah, look, it was that was a top effort. We were staring down the barrel halfway through the innings with 80 yard for one or whatever he's chasing. Relatively modest total on a really flat deck at the Jacques Callis Oval at Wynberg Boys. It took a lot of grit, some really good catches, and who, as I said to you, still plays competitive cricket. Took a really good catch in the third last over down on the boundary, quite high in the sun. We had to move quite a few yards to his left to take a really good catch, and that was sort of a game changer, And then you got guys like Dorsey who came to me just before the third over, and he said, or the last over, I can't remember which one it was, but I remember what he said to me. He said to me, I can't promise you I'll finish the over, but I'm sure I'll be able to I'll do this for you. Can I have the ball?
Yeah, that's good of him. Yeah.
So, I said to him, Dorsey, we've got a few more games to go, are you sure? He said, no. He says, listen, we need to beat England, so,
yeah.
And he was able to give me the 6 balls, but he did bowl a no ball. I think it was the second last ball, or the last ball, to bowl a no ball to keep them interested as well. So it was a tough over that, I must be honest. And we only won by 2 runs.
There we go. Yeah, but a good win, a really, really good win.
No, it was a good win.
And
it showed a lot of spirit there. There were a lot of guys that. And over the 3 games that we played, the 3 games that we played, even with the warm-up game, it was amazing how the guys gelled. We've still got a WhatsApp group. I didn't pick up my phone the whole of yesterday. I left it down in the charge docking station for the. And when I got to my phone, there was something like 120 messages between them yesterday. They've knitted into a very good squad and a really close bunch of guys.
No, that's fantastic. And then, unfortunately, look, it's come to a premature end. Is the tournament going to take place next year, or what's the plan?
Well, the idea originally at the meeting that we had, as the last game was called off at lunchtime, and we were busy playing India. And it was a really funny scenario because I got a message onto the message came to me onto the field at around about the 30th over that the tournament has been called off and we must just need to finish these overs. It was really, really weird. So we had India in trouble, and I decided then to bowl a few guys that hadn't really had a bowl. It was a horrible day.
Yeah.
It was windy and it was terrible. But anyway, and when we went to the meeting afterwards, the view was that we could wait 2 years' time and go to England, or we could rerun this same tournament next year.
Okay.
And I had to leave at that stage, but it came back that we would rerun the tournament next year, and the reason being is that we have already a sponsor, and our sponsors, Evergreen Lifestyle, are committed for next year as well.
Great.
And the fact that they are committed was I think the turning point for everyone, and the fact that it's I think now it'll be 22 to 1 and 18 to 1. I think it's quite cheap for the other teams to come to South Africa. At this stage.
Yeah, no, it is.
So we hopefully, all going well, we hopefully will rerun the tournament next year. But it's I said to the guys afterwards in the change room, it's going to be up to every individual to go away and keep themselves fit and play cricket. Because there's another group of 50-year-olds that have moved into that bracket, and after seeing after seeing what's happened over the last couple of months, I think there are going to be more and more people that want to be part of it. So
absolutely,
there's no guarantee of your position at all. So, I think it's just wonderful that guys can continue playing. I've continued playing all these years, and this is a carrot, for everyone to continue playing.
Absolutely, and there's such a nice feel-good factor to it as well. I think the guys, as competitive as they are, there's also a good vibe amongst all teams and within the group. So that's really is something to look forward to. Yeah,
look at you. It's such a nice. I can't. To be honest with you, I can't tell you how nice it is to play cricket, being competitive.
Yeah.
But at the same time, afterwards going in and talking to opposition and having a beer with them and chilling and that, whereas these days, I mean, I've played club cricket for years and years and years, and the abuse and the on the field and the chirping and you still get chirped. I mean, but it's not, it's nothing personal. It's quite intelligent chirping, and there's a little bit of rivalry on the field.
Yeah.
But you walk off the field and you go and you have a beer with the opposition, and they have a beer with you, or we meet at the hotel. I mean, the Welsh guys were brilliant. We what they did was at each club that hosted the game had to also host supper that night. So all the teams stayed. So all the teams stayed for supper, and they had supper together. And we had the Welsh sang to us. The Welsh players actually had a hymn book with 100 songs, or a song book with 100 songs. And then they would stand up and they would say, okay, song number 60, and then they'd all page to number 60, and then they'd burst out into song. So they entertained us for one night for quite some time.
Yeah.
And then we went back to the hotel, and they all met in the bar afterwards, and they sang again, So it was really, really it was really nice. And that's what cricket's all, the sport's all about, And if I think what happens in club cricket now, the guys abuse each other all afternoon. They walk into a clubhouse, they have a fine. One team sits there, they have a fines meeting on the one side, the other team sits on the other side. If they stay, and they have a fines meeting, and then they bugger off. There's no sort of. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I look. Whereas this was, a bunch of friends, put it that way.
That's true. That's very, very true. Dave, can we touch a bit on your career, if that's all right?
Sure, no problem.
You made your debut against India. Couldn't have found an easier fixture.
Yeah.
Who was the toughest bowler you faced in that series in your debut?
I think the toughest then was probably Anil Kumble. I found him quite difficult to play until we sort of worked out after a couple of games that he didn't really turn the ball. We were all sort of envisaging him to turn and be a bit more like a Shane Warne type player. But he actually didn't. We actually realised, remember Hansi coming down to the wicket to me and saying, just play him like an in-spinger. Yeah. Somebody that brings the ball back at you. And it took a while for us to all adapt to him. I think most guys struggled against him, and I think it was more psychological because of the fact that we had Shane Warne was floating around, and there were a couple of good guys. But it was once we started working it out a little bit, it was definitely easier. Not to say that it was easy. It just a little easier to play, So, and they didn't have really anybody quick. I mean, Capital Dev wasn't that quick at that stage of his life. Manoj Prabhakar wasn't that quick. But I knew Manoj Prabhakar quite well because I played against him a lot in the leagues in England. In my a few years before that, so I knew that he was an intelligent bowler, and he had in swinger and away swinger, and he had a little slower ball, cutter. I should say, I wouldn't say a slower ball. I mean, we didn't know of slower balls in our day.
Yeah.
It was a cutter. We used to call it a cutter. It was a nice series to get into. Some obviously classy players there. But there was nothing really that quick,
That's true. And I believe South Africa won the series 5-2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But just how good was Kepler Wessels at being the captain?
Look, Kepler was, for us at that stage, a perfect person. I mean, he had international experience. He arrived. I'd known him for years, obviously playing for the Eastern Province for 5 or 6 years. And I remember him arriving in Port Elizabeth in 86, 87, 88, around about 87, I think it was. And I remember him. I mean, the whole practice routine had changed. The way we practiced, the way we trained, all these things changed dramatically for us. And we became such a more professional unit. And over those next 4 or 5 years, all the teams sort of adopted that sort of those practice methods and that type of thing, And everybody suddenly, because we were sort of coming out of isolation in those days, everyone sort of lifted their game, and especially when the guys went to the World Cup earlier that year in 92. A lot of guys came back and realized, that we've got an immense amount of talent in this country, but we obviously need to pick up our training methods and become a bit more scientific. But Kepler was ahead of everyone, at that stage, and he led by example. And the game, I mean, I always think about how would have Kepler been suited today's game, and I think he would have adapted accordingly, So, we all, and I'll be the first one to tease him and say to him, shit, Kepler, you would have been a boring T20 player, you know what I mean? But I've seen him take apart. I mean, once we were one afternoon at St. George's, needing a huge total. I got 100, he got 100, and nearly, I think 170 chased against Western Province, chasing a total. When he was stepping back and hitting Dave Runwell off spin over the shallows, So the guy, he would have adapted.
Absolutely.
But he led by example. He was a tough man, very tough man, and we followed. So he was a leader at that stage.
It's brilliant. You also then did something fantastic against New Zealand when you made 169 not out, and that was the best score by an opening batsman at the time. Just tell us a bit more about what happened in that game.
Yeah, look, obviously things had moved on a bit. Kept that stopped playing. Hansi had taken over, and Hansi was a totally different captain to Kepler.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, probably the right person at the right time, because everyone in the team had got some experience, international experience, and some of the players felt like they needed to have some freedom, and Hansi was that sort of player that was willing to let players. Whereas Kepler sort of tried to mold everyone, whereas Hansi sort of let you go, and you would have made mistakes, and you would have found out what was best for you. Gary Kirsten was going through a tough time in '95, especially in one-day cricket. I can't recall what the Test cricket scenario was, but certainly in one-day cricket, he was going through a pretty tough time, and I was sort of floating around batting at number 6 as an all-rounder, 5 or 6 at times. I sort of made a couple of 40s, a couple of 20s, really bowled a few overs, but really a bits and pieces player. And, I was always feeling a little bit that I needed an opportunity. But while he had guys like Paper and Hansi Cornier and Mark Brindle, Eric Simons in that mold of players, we would always be considered as bits and pieces players. Yeah. So I don't know how it happened, but I remember Hansi saying to me the night before the game, we were staying at the Sanderson Sun, he came to me and he said to me, "What did you think? How would you feel about opening the batting tomorrow?"
Sure.
And I said, "Look, I've never opened the batting in my life before, except for obviously club cricket or school cricket, maybe when needed, quick runs or something like that. But at the international level, the first class level, I'd always batted number 4. But I wanted to prove that I was a better player than just a one-day player. My biggest, the word regret, but I would trade many of my one-day games in, actually all of them, except the 169, just to have played one test match, So, and I wanted to prove that I was a better player than batting at number 6. And so I sort of said in my mind, straight away, I said, well, I've got nothing to lose. They had Simon Dool, Pringle, Danny Morrison or whatever. I don't think he played that game, but they had a really sort of attack. I loved playing at Northerns because the ball came onto the bat. It did swing early on. I knew it was going to swing a little bit early on, but after that, it was going to be a pleasure to bat. Doesn't matter what the conditions were. It's going to be a hell of a lot easier than St. George's, put it that way.
Yes.
So I said, yes, I'll do it.
Cool. Sure.
And woke up the next morning, and it was confirmed that I would do it. So
wow.
Yeah, and it's amazing if you go back to the video, and I've see how life and opportunities arise. I mean, in that knock, my first scoring shot was over backward point, one bounce 4.
Great.
And Andrew Hudson in the previous over had played exactly the same shot and got caught at backward point at X. But mine was a little. And I'll tell you what happened was there was a guy by the name of Darren Murray that was playing in that side. He had been an amateur of mine playing in the leagues in the Lancashire leagues, and he knew that I liked to drive. And they had, I think, guy was Mark Priest, who was the left arm spinner down at backward point, who took Andrew's catch.
Yeah.
And when I came onto bat, they moved Priest a bit finer because they thought that I would nick and go through. So they moved him about 10, 15 yards to the right. And I then went for the first ball and I got outside off stump. I hit it probably almost where he was, probably standing, a few balls later.
And how he tells you that happened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's, 169 later. At that stage was the highest one-day score.
Yes.
If I may, I might be 1 or 2 out, but I think it was the second highest 50 over. It was the fourth highest, fourth or fifth. I think it was the fifth highest one-day score in the world at that stage. But it was the second highest 50 over score.
Sure.
I mean, every time I see somebody scoring, I sit at home and I talk to my family, and every time I see someone go over it, over the 169, I go down in the notches, and I say, well, and I think just in the last couple of months, I think I went out the top 50. So, so that's how the game is developed. So.
Absolutely. And I have a couple of questions before we call it a day. You mentioned earlier Eastern Province was a really strong side, and it was. I remember watching on TV, and guys used to dominate, absolutely. But how can and they've changed out to the Warriors, how can they retain their talent? How can they keep winning trophies?
Yeah, look, we've always been a bit struggled. I mean, when we look at now and we see that a guy like Lutus Apamla has just left, which for me is very sad. I coached him for 4 years at Grey. Yes. I was involved in his development. And unfortunately, it comes down to finances. He didn't get an SA contract, so he obviously can choose where he goes to play, and the highest bidder would. I think EP Cricket, we were all hoping that he would get an SA contract, and he would obviously nominate South Africa, EP or Warriors as his home team.
Yes.
So when he didn't get it, it's always going to be different. But I think over the last few months, or the last year, I've been quite involved with the university as well when my son's playing cricket.
Oh, good.
And the only way Eastern Province is going to maintain is to go back to the university being very strong.
Yes.
And I think going forward, I think if we look at what's happening in SA cricket when it comes to finances, all that, all these, and with what's happening now. I mean, this whole coronavirus thing. Yeah. I think we all after this next 21 days or next couple of months, we're going to relook and have to relook at sport as a whole. And we need to look at our universities, varsity colleges, our schools. That's where we're going to be able to retain the strength in this province, and also in our club system. I've been involved with the club system. So if I know it wasn't the right way done, but I think eventually it's going to have to be done where we're going to go back to provincial cricket, and try and get your club and your provincial cricket that narrow that gap.
Yes.
And spend some money in getting each area to spend whatever how many players are playing, strengthening your club cricket, because that's where your feeder system is going to come, and your varsity is going to be part of that. Your EP academy is going to be a part of that. Your schools are going to be part of that feeder system. Because I really don't think there's going to be huge amounts of money after what's transpired over the next couple of months And the love for the game is going to be more important. And I don't want to mention names, been involved with lots of kids over the last 7 years, and I think Ashwell's article, he hit the nail on the head. I don't know where he wrote it, but I read it this morning, where young players are asking, what plan have you got for me? Before they've even made a run.
That's true. That's so true. Yeah.
Whereas, where are the days where, Ashwell brings with, he played, Ashwell's, okay, you spoke about SAA, but Ashwell played when there was Kepler, myself, Louis Kuhn, Philip Am, and Mark Rushmere, all the top 5, and Kenny McKeown.
Yeah.
And he ended up moving to Western Province because he couldn't get a regular spot into our team.
Yes.
Okay. And there were no sour grapes when he left here. He left because there was an opportunity there for him.
Correct.
And he went and he made the best of that opportunity.
Yeah.
He didn't go there because of money. He didn't go there because of any other thing other than the fact that he loved the game of cricket, and he wanted an opportunity. And I think that's what some of our youngsters need to start doing. Getting runs on the board is and proving your worth to make teams rather than trying to. And it's part of the millennium thing, culture.
Yeah.
It's everything's instant.
That's
we want to know where we're going to go, what. And I have a big thing in my life with cricket, and I'll watch youngsters. If you do not love the game, and there's a difference between liking and loving the game.
Yeah.
You're going to find this game very hard.
That's so true. It really is. Yeah.
If you love it, when you're out of form, you will still go and you still practice, and you'll watch them. If you just like it, when you're out of form, you're not going to put that much effort in because it becomes a slog. And you're training because you have to train, not because you love training. And I've seen it with guys in my own who played with me, who came for a couple of years and disappeared. And I see it with a whole lot of youngsters now. When things are not going their way, they moan. It's never their fault.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
It's everyone else's fault.
Yeah.
Either the wicket's not ideal for them, or the something wrong with the captain, or there's something wrong with the coach, or the way that we play is not good. It's going to be interesting, but definitely keeping players here is obviously very important. And I think although the universities all around the country looking at them, except for Tuks, and maybe Marty's to a certain extent, have neglected their sport or their cricket as such. I think it's going to be very important for the unions and the universities to get together and make sure that we plan for the future.
Some really wise words there. Now, you've hit the nail on the head there, Dave. I really see it even in my career, trying to do what I'm doing. You've got to get up early in the morning and you've got to work the whole day. It's not easy, but it eventually pays off if you work hard. So no, I fully agree with you. It really, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, look, I've seen it so many times. I've seen kids with lots of talent. Then for them now it's a little bit easier. I mean, not that I had it easy at all. I mean, my first knock for EP was 171 straight out of school.
Sure.
Played a season. Halfway through that season, I begged to play in the second team because it was tough. Playing Currie Cup cricket was really, really tough.
Yes.
I went back. I got dropped, and I was happy to get dropped that season. And my first game was in the second side, or the EPB side, was against Natal up at Pietermaritzburg, and I got 100. And to get back in the side, and then Gavin Carley and Peter Woolley had a fallout after a game. at Northern Transvaal. They had a massive fallout, and Peter Willie flew home back to PE, and I got a phone call at the airport. In those days, no cell phone.
Yeah.
And they redirected me back with the Currie Cup side.
Sure.
And off I went to Pretoria to play in a night game against Northerns. You know, so yeah, we've all had it tough, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's. I mean, I tell this story. Kepler, the year before I made my debut for E. So at the end of '92 season, the '92 season, I was just recovering from my cancer. So I've been Kepler made me. When I wasn't in the last Currie Cup side that played. So when the new season started in October I should say, Kepler played the side that played the last game the year before. So I didn't even play in the first Currie Cup game that season because he was loyal to the guys that had played the season before. Yeah. And he said to me that I needed to go and prove myself first. So I went back into the B side that game, and I remember I was very disappointed because obviously just after I made my comeback in one-day cricket, I got a 69 against Transvaal in the semi-finals. We won the Currie Cup the year before. So there was, and I played in that team while he was at the World Cup. But when he came back, he said to me, "You're playing in the B side. We all back. Rashmir's back, Richardson's back, and I'm back. And these guys, although you played in the final in the end of the 91-92 season in March, you will be sitting out in So I played in the B side. I got 100 in the B side. The following weekend, I got promoted to the A side, and I played against Transvaal, and I got 100 against Transvaal. And I got a score in the second innings as well. And the following weekend, I was playing for South Africa. So within 2 weeks, within almost 2 to 3 weeks, I went from playing in the B side to playing for South Africa in one-day cricket.
Amazing.
Yeah, and that's how life. There's opportunities, and that. So everyone goes. Every cricketer goes through their disappointments. You know.
Yeah. Dave, it's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you. So much to take from there. Brilliant. Lots of substance. It's been really, really good.
No problem. All right.
Dave, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Nice chatting to you.
All the best, my man.
Cheers.
Take it easy, man. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.